Hello, my friends. Welcome to my channel. Washington exploded. The attack came not from an outside enemy, but from a single tweet, fired from Mar-a-Lago in the early hours of the morning. It was a weapon of mass destruction, packed into 280 characters. As the government shutdown entered its second week, leaving 24 million Americans on the brink of losing their health insurance, President Donald Trump chose this moment to ignite a new war. He wasn't aiming at policies. He was aiming at the soul of the debate. His tweet declared, "The radical left Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, are holding the government hostage. They refuse to pass a budget unless they get $1 trillion for transgender surgeries for minors and free health care for illegal immigrants. Never going to happen." That number, $1 trillion, became a bomb. It was more than a distortion. It was a complete fabrication. A monster born of the most ruthless political calculation. But it worked. Fox News immediately ran the headline, "The Trillion War." Conservative radio shows roared in outrage. Social media exploded. The Democratic leadership, taken aback, rushed to deny it, calling it a blatant lie. But in the storm of information, their denials seemed weak, defensive. They were caught in Trump's game, arguing over a number that didn't exist. And while they were busy putting out the fire, the house was quietly being dismantled from its foundation. And then, amid the chaos, as Washington seemed to be playing by Trump's rules, one voice refused to follow the script. Jasmine Crockett didn't hold a press conference to deny it. She didn't issue a formal statement. She did something much bolder. From her office, with just a phone, she recorded a 2-minute video and posted it straight to X. She looked into the camera like a prosecutor. And she didn't speak to the American people. She spoke directly to one person. "Mr. President," she began, her voice low and icy, without a trace of tremor, "I'm not going to waste time arguing about the numbers you made up, because you and I both know they're lies. I'm here to talk about why you lied." She leaned forward, her gaze piercing the screen. "You lie because you can't argue with the facts. The truth is that your policies are hurting people. The truth is that you're holding 24 million lives hostage. And because you don't have the courage to defend your cruelty, you've created an imaginary monster. You're using transgender children and immigrants as human shields to cover up your own moral failures. That's not just the action of a bad politician. That's the action of a coward." The final words, "a coward," hung in the air. The video didn't end with a rallying cry. It ended with Jasmine Crockett's weighty silence. The fight was no longer about budgets. It had become personal. Jasmine Crockett's video exploded online. It wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a devastating counterattack. Within hours, it had been viewed 50 million times. The hashtag number "Trump is a coward" was trending #1 worldwide. Crockett didn't play defense. She attacked Trump's fortress, his image as a strong man. She turned the debate from "Is Trump's lie true?" to "Why is Trump a coward?" This direct personal attack riled the beast. That same night, from Mar-a-Lago, a storm of tweets and Truth Social posts was unleashed. Trump stopped talking about Schumer or the budget. He focused all his fire on Jasmine Crockett. He called her Jasmine Big Mouth Crockett, a low IQ congresswoman from Texas, a screaming, useless person. He wrote, "She is a disgrace to Congress. She just wants to be famous. Her entire career is a scam. Investigate her." But Trump didn't stop there. 2 days later, at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, he turned the attack into a spectacle before thousands of rabid supporters. "They sent a no-name congresswoman from Texas, who hasn't done anything, to call me a coward," he roared, and the crowd booed. Let me tell you who the cowards are. The cowards are the people who hide behind lies and can't face the fact that their policies are destroying this country. They're the cowards. In a masterstroke of manipulation, he appropriated Crockett's accusation and threw it back at him, turning it into a badge of honor in the eyes of his supporters. The escalation took the confrontation to a new level. This was no longer a policy debate. It was a televised duel, a battle of uncompromising personalities. Trump, a master of insults and name-calling, had for the first time encountered an opponent who would not back down but was willing to respond with a weapon he had not anticipated. Ruthless psychological analysis. Jasmine Crockett didn't respond to Trump's insults with more insults. She did something smarter. Asked about the president's attacks in a CNN interview the next day, she smiled serenely. "I don't take it as an insult," she said. "I take it as a confession. When a man, especially a man in power, can't argue with facts or logic, he turns to personal insults. That's the ultimate sign of intellectual impotence. The tweets and the yelling at rallies don't say anything about me. They say everything about his insecurity." She didn't just dodge. She used his strength to break him. She turned each insult into further evidence of her original thesis, that he was a weakling trying to look strong. It was a tactic Trump's previous opponents had never dared to try. They either ignored it or tried to maintain a higher level. Crockett chose to step out of the ring, not to fight a mud fight, but to become a psychoanalyst in the middle of it. After the interview, she held a press conference, not to attack Trump, but to announce a symbolic bill, the Transparency in Administration Act. The bill, which, though it was certain it would never pass, would require the Congressional Budget Office to verify the authenticity of any presidential statements related to budget negotiations within 24 hours. It was a strategic move, contrasting her image as a serious legislator with Trump's image as a reality TV star. Behind the scenes, both parties were in turmoil. Republican strategists worried that Trump was getting bogged down in an unnecessary personal fight that would overshadow their budget message. "The president is turning a policy fight into a reality show," an unnamed Republican senator told the New York Times anonymously, "and we're all supporting characters." Meanwhile, Democratic leaders were also uncomfortable with Crockett's tactics. They feared that her direct confrontation would alienate moderate voters, but they couldn't deny its effectiveness. Crockett had done what they hadn't been able to do for weeks: take control of the narrative from Trump. This confrontation has exposed a tectonic shift in American politics. It is no longer a battle of ideologies, but of personalities, of narratives. Trump has built his career on creating a narrative of strength and decisiveness. By striking at the very foundation of that narrative, Crockett has created a counter-narrative, that of an emperor with no clothes, a bully who is actually a coward. The government shutdown, with 24 million lives at stake, has become a tragic theater for this personal battle. The paradox is cruel. While politicians are busy fighting for their image, Americans are paying with their lives. The personal battle between Trump and Crockett completely overshadowed the budget debate. The public no longer cared about the ACA or the numbers. They were locked in a political boxing match, watching every punch, every retort. Public pressure forced both sides to find a way out. Eventually, a temporary budget deal was reached. The government reopened. Technically, the crisis was over, but it was an illusion. Nothing had really been resolved. The fight ended not with a policy compromise, but with both sides exhausted by a war of attrition. Jasmine Crockett succeeded in exposing Trump's tactics and became a national star, a symbol of resistance. But Donald Trump, by turning the controversy into a personal battle, also succeeded in distracting from the cruelty of his original policy stance. There was no clear winner, only a more deeply wounded politics. After the government reopened, an Associated Press story told the story of a Michigan veteran who died after failing to receive his disability benefits on time due to the shutdown. That same day, Trump posted on Truth Social, "A big win for the American people. I did not back down." That contrast between a life lost and a triumphant celebration sums up the tragedy. The event left an indelible scar. It normalized a new form of political confrontation, one that was more brutal, more personal, and less about governance. It showed that in the age of social media, a battle of personalities can easily replace a debate about policy, and that is a dangerous precedent. A democracy cannot function if its leaders spend more energy destroying opponents than solving the nation's problems. On the international stage, America's allies and adversaries watched this development with a mix of amazement and alarm. European allies saw a democracy tearing itself apart from within. "We used to look to America for leadership," a French diplomat commented in Le Monde. "Now we look and see a circus. How can we trust a superpower when its politics are driven by personal quarrels?" America's internal instability was no longer its problem. It was a security vulnerability for the entire Western world. Meanwhile, in Beijing and Moscow, strategic analysts see an opportunity. They do not need to attack America. They can simply wait for it to weaken itself. The polarization and dysfunction of American politics are their most powerful weapons. They see a superpower burning itself out in pointless internal wars, leaving a power vacuum on the world stage that they are eager to fill. The confrontation between Trump and Crockett is not just an American story. It is a 21st century parable, a battle between two forms of power: power based on dominance and fear, and power based on truth and moral steadfastness. Jasmine Crockett may not have converted Trump supporters, but she showed millions of others that there is another way to fight, that you don't have to play by the bully's rules. But this war raises a more troubling question. When politics becomes a combat sport, who really loses? The answer is simple: ordinary people, whose livelihoods depend on effective government, who don't have the time or energy to watch the elite's personal battles. They are collateral damage in a war that is not theirs. As the lights of Washington dim and the voices of debate die down, one final question remains, one that each of us must answer for ourselves. What is the point of a republic when its leaders consider humiliating their opponents more important than serving the people? And are we entering a new era, where victory is no longer defined by better policies, but simply by who lands the last punch? Don't just watch, take action. Like, if you believe that the truth must be protected, share to spread this message. Subscribe, because this fight needs your voice.